Now, I think several of you know Professor Bolkvadze very well. She is a very active person at, of course, at the Tbilisi State University, at the Department of Linguistics, Applied and Theoretical Linguistics, but she has also other arenas where she is doing a lot of interesting work. She is working at the Abkhazian Society of Historical Linguistics, and also at the Georgian State Language Department. So, yeah, no wonder that we see you around a lot, and we're so happy that you give us this presentation. Professor Bolkvadze has been here to my university a couple of times, I think, and we're so happy to see you here again. And yes, you see the whole affiliation here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for invitation, of course. It's great to meet with our colleagues, at least in Zoom, and hope to meet personally very, very soon. I hope this, our midlife will finish soon.
Yes, so do we.
So the theme of our presentation today is the language situation in multilingual Georgia. So Georgia always was a multilingual country, and it's still multilingual, of course. And I will compare the Soviet language situation with modern language situation in Georgia. And I want to underline two, how to say, sub-themes. So language hierarchy in Georgia. So in multilingual country, you know, there is some hierarchy of languages, and social-linguistic attributes of languages spread in Georgia. So about the hierarchy, the main document which we can read is, of course, the Constitution of Georgia. And according to this constitution, the state language is Georgian, and also Abkhazian in Abkhazia. So there are some minority languages, but the big minorities of Georgia are Azerbaijani, Armenian, Russian, and Ossetian languages. We have a lot of languages, more than 50, but the big minorities are these four groups. Now, please see at the ethnic or linguistic composition of our country, and I compare here two information of the two different census, 2002 and 2014. So you can see in percentage, so Georgians were always majority population of Georgia. And you see that the number of the population is less and less. So at least 1 million people left Georgia according to this census. The new census we will have during 2 years, as I know, maybe in 2023. And I think the population would be less, of course. So if you see this ethnic linguistic composition, you see that Azerbaijanians are one of the big minority, and Armenians, but they're less and less, unfortunately, about 6%, and now is about 5%. Russians are one of the big minorities, but they are not so big as Armenians and Azerbaijanians in Georgia. Now, please see how many people speak their mother tongue. For example, there are 233,000 Azerbaijanians in Georgia, but you see that not all of them speak their own mother tongue. The same is with Armenians. But Russian language is more popular still. 4,500 people, 45, no, not 100, but 1,000 people speak on this language. So it means that Armenians, Azerbaijanians, Georgians, Kurdish, Ossetians, and other minorities use this language as their mother tongue. So now you can see that the whole population of Georgia, it's the minority population, Georgians, and three main linguistic minorities of Georgia, and you see the percentage of their percents. Now about sociolinguistic attributes. So let me start with Georgian languages. It is a state language of Georgia. So first of all, when we want to describe the sociolinguistic of languages, we pay attention to the language functions. What's this language? What functions this language have? Internal qualities of the language, and of course, the attitude of the speaking community to given language. So this is the principles of Paul Garvin, and if we use these principles, we can say that Georgian is a codified and standardized language. Of course, it has literary history, at least 15 centuries, if not more. The not quality, but main feature of Georgian is a flexible stability, and of course, intellectualization, that this language can do any term for any field of science. This means intellectualization. These are the internal qualities of the Georgian. And now the diapason of the modern Georgian, where what functions this language has. First of all, this language is homogeneous, which means that all parts of the history of Georgian are homogeneous. It has autonomy, of course. Linguistic autonomy means that there are a lot of borrowed words in Georgian, but there is some stable structure of language, and we cannot use the term mixed language for Georgian. So the church service is used not only modern Georgian, but old Georgian too in church services. So, and in diapason, we should include not only literary language, but dialects, Georgian dialects, and social linguistic and territorial dialects, of course. Now, it's my handmade, it's a linguistic map of Georgia, and you see that the state language color is blue, and you can find Migrelian and Swan language too on this map. There's a different shades of the blue. And I think it's better to say some words about Kartvelian, the South Caucasian languages, and about their relationship. So we have 4 Kartvelian languages, or South Caucasian languages. This is Georgian, Migrelian, Laz, and Swan languages. And of course, it's always interesting what relationship of Kartvelian languages from the social linguistic standpoint. And please pay attention to this very interesting investigation which made Karina Wamling many years ago, and I think it still works. As I speak this language, Migrelian, I mean, and I sometimes go to Migrelia, I can say that this investigation is still works. And please see the domains where the Migrelian is used frequently, sometimes, rarely, or never. And you will see that at home it's used So 82% of the whole population of Migralia use Migralian at home, in folklore, in market, in funeral, in feast, in free time, for example, in kindergarten, at the universities, and very sometimes in private letters. So the Migralians write to each other, not in Migralian, but in Georgian. And the same we can say about the Swan language. Swanians do not write each other letters on Swan, but on Georgian language. So it means that we have, I use the term diglossia, not bilingualism, but diglossia for the South Caucasian languages. What does it mean? You know what is diglossia? It's a stable linguistic situation when two or more languages coexist, but they have different functions, different prestige, literary heritage, standardization, and other features. If we compare Georgian with other South Caucasian languages, we can say that Georgian has high prestige, of course, as its literary language and state language at the same time. It has literary heritage, it's codified language, but about Migralian, Swan, and Laz, we can say that they used only in the everyday life, not on the level of state or on the level of region. So because I use this term diglossia and not bilinguals, because they are relative languages, they are the representatives or the same family group. Now about the minority languages of modern Georgia. First of all, we should say some words about Azerbaijani, Armenian, and Ossetian languages. And we can begin from Abkhazia. I think we can say some words about Abkhazian, because Abkhazian language is the de facto is the state language of one of the state language. I can say Abkhazia with Russian language, because Russian language has more functions in modern Abkhazia than Abkhaz language. But in Soviet time, Abkhazian was the language with Georgian, was a state language, sorry, with Georgian in Abkhazia. So we can say some words about Abkhazian. Please see this data, which based on the last Soviet census. It was made in 1989 by the Ministry of Economics of Abkhazia. And you can see ethnic composition, number of population in thousands, and in percent of the population. So Georgians were majority of the population, 46%. Abkhazians were 18%, Russians 14%, and Armenians 15%. The whole population of Soviet Abkhazia were more than 500,000. So you can imagine what happened in Abkhazia in 1991, 1993, and now there is only a very small part of Georgians, and unfortunately they don't have happy lives, because Georgian is, we can use the term of UNESCO, it's a forbidden language. And now it's unfortunately it's not used, the language of schooling, even in Gali. So you can imagine the life of the not only population, but the young generation, for example, peoples who go to school, where the Russian and Abkhazian changed. Now these languages are languages of schooling, and they are not fluent on these languages, in these languages. So you can imagine the quality of the teaching and learning in such schools in Gali. But what about Soviet time? What is interesting, the alphabets of not only Abkhazian, but Ossetian languages were changed different times. Now I want to show you, this is a book by Joshua, which was published in 1926. So in 1926, we have, please see, three different type of Abkhazian alphabet, Russian, латинизированный, так называемый, it means no new Abkhazian alphabet, and Georgian. So in 1926, three different alphabets coexist in the same time. It means that it's not a good situation for the media, because we don't know which media like which alphabet and which magazines, for example, or which newspapers used Russian, Latinian, or Georgian graphics for the Abkhazian alphabet. And now this is a printed version of the Georgian-based Abkhazian alphabet, and the title of it, Apsua alphabet. And you see that Georgian graphic, it's not enough for Abkhazian consonant system because it's very rich, and used some other signs to distinguish different type of consonancy system, sorry. And I find this structure of Georgian alphabet in the archive of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. This is the former, what's the name? Communist Party archives. This was the structure which was used for Ossetian and Abkhazian alphabets during 1938, 1954, when the textbooks, and not only textbooks, but the media and government of Abkhazia worked and used Georgian graphic for everyday use. This is a second page which I find there. You can read in Russian, Gruzinski Shrift, Analyz построения графем. So the structure of each grapheme of the Georgian script, which was used as the base for the Ossetian and Abkhazian alphabets. What about Ossetian language? So sociolinguistic attributes of Ossetian language, you can say that it's standardized and codified language. It was official language of autonomous region. It was language of schooling and language of media. But now, what about the situation in post-Soviet Georgia? First of all, it's a very small population which know and use Ossetian language in everyday life. Unfortunately, I know only one media which works in Ossetian. It's not the language of schooling. In Georgia, only 2 schools we have where they use Ossetian as the language of instruction. It's not an official language because usually used Russian, not Ossetian. And of course, it's still codified, but this usage is very narrow. This is the first Ossetian manuscript, which was found by Javakhishvili in the Institute of Georgian Manuscripts, and nobody could understand the meaning you can see. So the Georgian script is used, but the meaning of the words was impossible to understand. And then Georgi Akhlidiani, who was a specialist of the Indo-Iranian languages and especially Ossetian language, he read this text, described this text, and he told that it's Ossetian text from the Gospel, is the excerpt from the Gospel. And we say that this is the first Ossetian manuscript where the Georgian alphabet used as a base for the Ossetian text in 1802. So you see that not only Georgian signs, but many other signs are used. For example, F from Latin and some others, which we are not used in Georgian, and they borrowed it from the different graphics. What is interesting, from 1935 to 1943, we can find three different um, alphabets based on different bases and different textbooks. For example, this is Ossetian textbook based on the Cyrillic. It was published in 1933, and you can somehow read it. But please, it's in the same period, 1936, you can see Ossetian textbook based on Latin alphabet. So you can imagine the situation of the Ossetian population. So one school uses Ossetian alphabet or one class. I cannot imagine well how did they work, what they did, because different textbooks, different alphabets at the same time. And the third one, please, it's 1938. It's Ossetian textbook based on Georgian alphabet, Madalon Avzag, which we see here in Ossetian means mother tongue. Madalon, in Madalon, you can find mother, of course. So the second textbook, which I find in the same archive of Ministry of Internal Affairs of Georgia, this Ossetian textbook still based on the Georgian alphabet. It is published in 1940. It's for the fourth class. 1946, still was used Georgian alphabet for the textbooks, and it published in Stalinir. Stalinir was the name of Tskhinval. Now we can say some about the other languages which spread in Georgia. First of all, are about Armenian, one of the big minority of Georgia, and about Azerbaijanian, one of the big minority. One is spread in Samtskhe Javakheti and the second in Kwemu Kartli. The main problem which we have about this population in Georgia, that they don't know the state language of Georgia. This is a big challenge for the educational system of Georgia, and of course it's a big problem for the integration of this population in the civil society of Georgia. You know that when the citizen of country cannot speak state language, it means that the citizen will be marginalized, and it's not a wish of the authorities of country. But this problem has a Soviet root. What does it mean? It means that Soviet country, Russian was has the function of state language with Georgian. And if the person knew Russian, it means that he had a great opportunity to work all over the whole Soviet Union. But if person knows only Georgian, it means that only Georgia is the space where he can work. So Armenians, Azerbaijanians, and other minorities of Georgia liked to study Russian because it was lingua franca of the whole Soviet Union, and at the same time it was good opportunity for the on job market, we can say. So this the fact that our minorities don't speak well in Georgian has a Soviet roots. And what is interesting for us, is that now our government has a different programs for the school children and for the students to help them to study, to learn state language of Georgia. So you can see that in Soviet time and now, students from non-Georgian language schools graduated without knowing state language. Now, what's the main goal of today's Georgian authorities? So it's necessary to Georgian should be used as a lingua franca for all citizens of Georgia. It should be used in everyday life of each citizen of Georgia, and it should be interesting language for study, not only minorities, but for whole population of Georgia. And on the job market, this language should functions as the main language in all jobs. So I won't say some words about the international languages too. So in Soviet time, Russian was not international language. It was used as a language of lingua franca, as I say. But in post-Soviet Georgian began to use English as one of the most widespread international language. And you know that in Georgia we had the program Teach and Study for Georgia, and from different countries, teachers of English, we are invited in Georgia. And this program still works, by the way, to help Georgian school children and students to study English as an international language. So now in Georgia works three different programs. One for the promoting Georgia as a state language. This is at least 5 different programs, 2 for for school children's, 1 for school teachers, and 1 for the students. We have the program 4+1. This one means 1 year for the non-Georgian students to study Georgia and the use of it as a language of instruction and language of schooling in universities. So the second direction is to improve knowledge of English, and this teach and learn with Georgia is still works, but other countries like to help Georgia to study international languages well. We have some programs from Italy, for example, from French, and some Italian and French schools which teach Italian and French languages to the school children of Georgia. And now I want to say some words about the strategy of Georgian state language. I am a member of the state language department, and now we work on the strategy. The main goal, of course, standardization and codification of Georgian language, but it's only one part of the strategy. We have some other objections too. First of all, to promote multilingualism in Georgia and to keep the language minorities and to help the people as students, school children and adults to know their mother tongues, mother languages, and to use it in everyday life with Georgian language about the Kartvelian languages, which I already mentioned, Georgian, Laz, Swan, and Migralian languages. And one of them is the different Kartvelian centers in the different places all over the world. For example, a week ago was opened very interesting center in Harvard University for Kartvelian languages. Your university, Malmo University, one of the pioneer, we can say, because you teach Georgian more than 20 years, as I know, and it still goes, still works. So we want to unify these different centers and maybe we will organize next year maybe 3-day conference for meeting of Kartveliologists from all over the world, Georgian and non-Georgian Kartveliologists. And I hope they will understand each other very well. So my presentation was very short, but I think it's better to answer on different questions.
So thank you so much, Tinatin,
It was very short.
this overview. There are so many issues or problems that are interesting to discuss.